evening.
How you
I'm
doing?
doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Can't complain.
Good. Thank you so much for joining. I
Oh,
apologize. As soon as I go live for some reason lately, it removes all of the comments that come up, and I can't see anyone do anything. So
that,
usually, usually we have a bunch of people that come in, will ask questions, things like that, but I cannot see that for whatever reason. So I
okay.
apologize.
No,
So we're just
that's
gonna conduct this, you and I.
that's
So everyone that's
good.
watching, I apologize if you guys are commenting and things like that. I cannot see any of it. But welcome everybody to another exciting episode of Sister Soul Sessions. We're actually launching season 3 tonight, so you are season 3, episode 1. So
Oh,
thank you so very much. Yeah, we're really excited. We've actually reached our 1 year this week as well.
oh,
So
congrats.
very special. Yes, thank you. So really excited to have you tonight, everyone. We have a very special guest, Mr. Robert Young III, and he is the founder and owner of a wonderful brewery right now that I'm really excited to talk about. And I actually want you to introduce, if you don't mind. So I'm going to go ahead and just shoot over to you. If you just give us a little bit about your business, Tapped33,
Yeah,
the brewery, and what you have going on.
yeah. Tapped33 is an upcoming brew pub in Augusta, Georgia. It's the first Black-owned brewery in Augusta, and so we are opening up and getting started and trying to make our mark into the industry, not only in Augusta but in the United States. And currently, I'm in Germany right now, doing my Master Brewers certification through Siebel and Domans in the World Brewing Academy. So
Oh my gosh,
that's now. So
that is absolutely amazing. Yes, I actually want to kind of start with that, the diversity in, your field, because I've been watching your videos. I see that you're in Germany. I see what your room looks like.
yeah, yeah.
And, so what is that like? Obviously you are gaining, knowledge that you probably didn't even think that you would be at any point, but, what is it like being there, being the only one that looks like you in the classroom? What's that experience like right now?
Oh yeah. I mean, I did not imagine if you would have asked me 3 years ago, like, do
Right.
you think you would be here? I probably would have been like, no. And so being here is amazing. And it's actually really interesting because I think this industry and even other industries are actually seeing a shift in the diversity. We're seeing more women come into the industry. We're seeing more people of color come into the industry. And the reason why I'm here is because of that diversity. I'm here on a scholarship through the Michael Jackson Foundation, which is spearheaded by Garrett Oliver, who's a prominent Black leader in the brewing industry.
Amazing.
And so he's made waves of trying to introduce diversity into the beer industry as a whole, after years and years and decades of um, little diversity in this industry.
Right.
And so being here is kind of more, you're starting to see like the shift of the tide of the people representation in this industry.
Right.
So we have um, Hispanics, we have Asians, we have women of color in this class now, and it's crazy to see
Yeah.
the shift of personnel. Because the school I have, they have a wall of everybody that's been in the classes before, and so you can see, 5 years ago it was just all white male
Yeah.
dominated.
Yeah.
Maybe one white woman was in the class, and now you're seeing like a shift of diversity in people in the industry. And so it's funny because like while I'm here, people don't believe that I'm in the beer industry. So
Yeah.
they, oh, why are you here? And they're like, oh, I'm a brewer. And they're like,
Yeah.
what do you mean you're a brewer? And I'm like, yeah, I brew beer. And they're like, it just takes them a minute for that connection to make sense for them. So.
No, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, I kind of stereotyped too, because when I finally got your photos, I was like, oh, I wonder if people are gonna associate.
No,
But I'm like, but
I know.
because and it's crazy because it's like, well, geez, what do we think that looks like? I guess.
Right.
What was I expecting? So, that was an interesting take even for me because like even the last promo I had, some ladies, they messaged me like, who is that? Or what does he do exactly? And I'm like, hold on, I just watched
Yeah,
the episode. But I was like, yeah, he's a brewer and, he's going to have a pub in Augusta and things like that. And just kind of explaining the story. And it's just like, yeah, you're changing what this industry looks like. Um,
exactly.
and how does that feel for you though, to know that you're kind of, on that first wave?
Yeah, I don't really think about it too much.
No?
I no, I try not to because like my first mission is to make great
Yeah,
beer, you know. And so there's no color behind
I love
other than the beer color, you know,
hmm
when you're drinking it. So um if I can make a great beer, first off, that's the first goal because I don't want to be known as just, oh, I'm
yes,
black.
right.
I brew beer. I want to be known because, oh, he like that person or that company or whoever
It's
makes
like top beer,
great beer.
yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly. And so once I get past that hurdle, then it's cool to be like, okay, yeah, I know I'm different. I
Yeah,
know uh, I can add my own, you know, flavor and like style and my own culture into the industry itself because I think that's what's lacking is some culture. And the craft beer industry in America, for sure, they take a lot from other cultures to build up their brands. And so, well, now it's my turn to influence it with my own culture and my own style and my own understanding of it and
I
stuff
love
like that.
that. Yeah, kind of
Um,
kind of shifting to that culture then, because the beer culture. Obviously, the names are always crazy or something,
right.
exciting. But you
Yeah.
came up with, and permaculture. I remember the song "Good Googly
Yeah.
Moogly" by Project Pat, things like
Yeah.
that. But how did you come up with that? Where does that come from? Where's that inspiration?
Yeah. I mean, my goal is to always have some type of influence of Atlanta or hip hop culture or black culture,
Right.
especially from a music thing because I love
Yeah,
music, and so one of the things I always set out to want to do is kind of combine the two things that I love, music and beer.
I
And
love that.
so, my goal, hopefully, is to always have these little Easter eggs of like different songs or
hmm
different about our culture that are like in the beers names or in what I do. And so,
I like that.
I made a juicy IPA, and you know, we were discussing names and trying to figure out what would sound good, and that came up, and so that stuck. And now I have another beer that's a brown sugar brown ale that I call
Ooh,
95 D'Angelo.
I love
Uh,
that.
so it's like,
I
okay,
love.
like if you don't know the song, then you won't get the reference,
Right,
but
but
it also adds to okay, why are you calling it that?
hmm
And then I can explain it or tie it into something else, and then it gets people interested. So.
no, definitely. I love that. Oh, that's beautiful. I'm a music head too. That's why I was like, oh, I hope that's where that came
Most definitely.
from.
It,
But
it,
what
it,
inspired, the whole, starting a brew pub, even making beer, like, where does that
yeah,
come from? I know a lot of military people and like they've had their own kits on, whenever you go from place to place. I know people make wine. Is that kind of the influence or what started it? Or is
that's
it?
definitely what started. It started military. I traveled to Germany,
Oh, wow.
and when I was in Germany, I went to Pilsen, which is in the Czech Republic,
hmm
and that's where the Pilsner
Yeah.
beer comes from. And I remember having a beer there that was unfiltered, unpasteurized Pilsner. And I sat down and we had like this full meal, and this beer comes out. And I took a sip and I was like, what in the world is this? Like, I never had something so good
Oh,
in my
wow.
life. And it was like a crazy aha moment of like, man, this is beer. Like, this is what people are making. And so I got bit by the bug of like wanting to know more about it. And so when I came back to the States, I realized that I was starting to get into craft beer a lot, and I was
Okay.
trying different beers and wanting to try new styles. And eventually that led me to just like, okay, I wonder if I can make this.
Right.
And so I started trying to make beer, and of course, it was horrible. And didn't know what I was doing, and
It is hard, man. That fermentation is crazy.
it is crazy. And so, um, but I was intrigued by it because it's like a blend of science
Right.
and like creativity and art and stuff like that. And so I kept with it, and I kept trying to understand how I could get better with it because I wanted to drink it, something that was
That you,
good.
yeah, enjoyed, yeah.
And
Do you feel like you were
so,
chasing that original flavor that you had there, or were you
oh
just trying to create
man,
something else you liked?
just trying to create something else that
Okay.
I like, honestly. Like it wasn't, it's very hard to recreate something like that,
Mhm.
because it's so iconic. And then even being here in Germany, you're like trying to learn how to make German beers or lagers. And there's so many factors that go
Right.
into what makes beer their beer. But you can get really close and you can really start to understand more to make the beer that you make better. And so I started reading a lot, started getting into like podcasts and
Yeah, you're just like sucked in completely. That's amazing.
really. And so then I made a good beer, and then I was
Yeah.
like hooked to that, and so I was like, oh, I could drink this, and so
So
after
how
this, after,
long in until we got to good googly moogly then?
oh my God. I mean, even Good Googly Moogly itself is probably about 7 versions
Oh, really?
until I finally was happy with what it is now, right? And because I'm trying different yeasts, I'm trying different hops, I'm trying different malt combinations, and so until I got to where it is now, it's probably about 7 different times I tried it, or I tried to make it,
Yeah.
and I wasn't satisfied, and then I think out of pure coincidence that I had to make it for a festival. And I was like, all right, well, I'm going to try one more time
This is
and
it. Yeah.
whatever this is, I'm going to go with it.
Yeah.
And that would actually turn out to be the best
The
one.
best inventions always happen like that. Like,
Exactly. So,
no, that's amazing.
yeah, you
Right.
just
And then
test
it
the
goes
pressure.
time. Some pressure is all you need. That was the extra ingredient.
Yeah, yeah. The extra ingredient was pressure for sure. But I was
Yeah,
like,
I know
oh,
a
shit,
little.
I got to
Yeah,
make this
right.
beer.
That's
That
amazing.
time, whatever it is going to be it.
How did
So
it do though at the
it,
festival that you were at?
it was a smash. It was a
Oh,
hit.
so you knew, yeah.
You know what? The funny thing about it, I it was my first festival in Atlanta. I
Oh,
wasn't
Atlanta too. Oh,
sure, yeah, I wasn't really sure how it would be received, but from my own sensory perception, I thought I made a good product. I made that, and then I took a bourbon barrel cherry stout as
oh.
well.
Okay,
And
now you're
so,
talking my language.
yeah, and so the funny thing about that festival, this little old white guy comes up and he's like, oh, what do you have? And I was like, oh, I have an IPA and a stout. He's like, let me try the IPA. I said, okay. And so he tries it and he's like, this is really good. And I was like, thank you. And he was like, this might be the best IPA I've had at this festival. He's like, but I don't know. I don't know yet. Let me walk around and I'll come back.
Right, right.
All right. I was like, thank you so much for your compliment. But yeah. And so probably about an hour and a half goes by. He comes back and he's like, all right, let me try that IPA again. And I give him another sample. And he's like, no, this is the best IPA here.
Is
And I
that
was like, thank you so much. Like,
like so
I,
you were literally doubled back to
yeah, yeah. I was
verify.
like, I appreciate that, man. Like,
Oh wow.
thank you so much. And like, so we started talking. And I was like, oh yeah, by the way, what's your name? He's like, oh, my name's Stan. I was like, Stan, my name's Robert. Nice to meet you. And he's like, yeah, here's my card. And I was like, okay. And so he hands me his card. And immediately I was like, oh my God. And my dad and mom were at the festival. And I was like, oh my God. And they like look at me and they're like, what's going on? And it's like Stan Hieronymus. And I was like, this is the guy whose books I read on how to make beer. And like everything I know about like hops,
Oh
IPAs,
my
I learned
gosh.
from reading his books.
And you
And now he's here like tasting my beer and like telling me
the
like
best.
you're doing a good
Ooh.
job. I was like,
Wow.
that is a crazy moment. And I was like, wow, this is absolutely insane. And they're like, what? They're like, all right, who's this little like guy walking around this black festival? Uh, and I was like, no, it's because of him and other people that like, this is why I'm here and this is why I'm doing this.
Wow.
Part of the books that I read. And so I give a shout out to Stan because after that we've kept in touch and now like he's a friend and
Oh my gosh. How
I can reach
amazing.
out to him for anything. So it's really good. All love there.
Wow. Talk about pressure really like creating like the diamond. Like that's what a diamond
It
moment
was
for you. Is
it
like
was
that's
crazy.
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was crazy. But yeah, that's exactly what it was. Because it was funny because like that was my first festival. I'm there. Everybody has these professional tents and all this stuff.
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
just
yeah.
blank, a blank tent and like this
Oh
makeshift thing. And I'm like,
man.
I'm just out here hustling, man. Like
Yeah,
trying to
yeah,
get.
yeah. Look, I don't even know if this is gonna work. I made this last night.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's amazing. No, and you got confirmation. That's how you know you're really like walking in your path. You know, that
Yeah.
first, like hint of confirmation of like you're supposed to be here. Because you're probably that whole time like that, I don't know if you ever get it now, but
Oh, yeah.
that
Sure.
complex,
Yeah.
and you're
Like,
just,
is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Like,
yeah.
give me a sign, please, universe. Like, let me know because I don't know. But yeah, it's stuff like that that keeps me going. Just realizing, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be, and this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Because until then, I'm out here hustling. I'm just playing around, like,
It's something that you
just
enjoy and that you love, yeah. And you don't know if it's going to make money or anything. You're just hoping people enjoy what you enjoy. And like, that's
exactly.
amazing to know that no, it's going somewhere.
It's,
But speaking of that, because, having that complex, you're in Augusta. And like you said, you would be the first Black owned brew pub there. Um, even though isn't this where James Brown is from?
yeah,
Isn't he
yeah,
from?
yeah,
The
yeah,
God for the Soul, yeah. Like I always think about that. That's my fun fact about Augusta.
yeah, yeah.
But
I mean,
but to
what's the
me, you know what I mean? It's like that's our home. It's similar to Atlanta to me. Like, that's somewhere that we should be, but you're going to be the first. And what are there like 10,000 breweries just in the US? 1%
yeah,
is Black owned.
yeah.
And the brick and mortars are I don't know the numbers on that, but I know that it's
The
even
best.
less that,
Yeah, even.
so what does, I know we don't want to touch on, you're just a Black brewer, but for you personally,
Mhm.
and being in that city, like what does that mean for you? Because that's such a milestone and something that, like you said, you're going to be the only one. That 1% means you.
Yeah, I know. Oh man, I love it. I embrace, being different and the beauty of being different and being first is you get to bring everybody else along with
Mhm.
you. And so when it comes to craft beer and beer in general, I'm able to educate the Black community about it. And it's a crazy thing because we're in a time period right now where craft beer is on its downswing, maybe not
Mhm.
downswing, but it's leveling off. Like, but consumption of beer is actually decreasing as a whole throughout the world, especially in America. But I think those statistics are a little skewed because those statistics were based off of a lot of white craft drinkers, right? Or white beer
Mm.
drinkers. Right? So there's not a lot of Black and women or people of color drinking beer, but that's a whole segment and a whole
That
community of people
you
that
can
been
now
excluded that
bring,
I can
yeah.
now start
I love
bringing
that.
industry. And so a lot of it is just educating, even with like my family. Like my stepmom, she's like, I can't believe you got me drinking beer now because like I didn't know beer could taste
Especially
like this.
IPA. No, especially IPA. I was gonna ask about that too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So even my dad is like, he started out and he would drink Heinekens or Coronas or
Yeah.
whatever like we drank for beer at a barbecue. And then I come in with like some weird,
Craft,
off the
yeah.
wall craft beer that I made, and he's like, okay, this is different, this is weird, and then he's like, okay, but no, it's actually good, and then he'll give it to his friends, and everybody's now like
See,
discussing
I
like,
love that.
what is this taste that we're tasting? And so I think my goal is to educate and create things that culturally that we would like to drink, and And then eventually that just permeates any other community. And,
Yeah,
especially with Black people, once we start something, we're
you
going
already
to
know.
influence.
Yes, yeah.
I'm from Atlanta, so it's like I grew up around Black entrepreneurs all my life. So,
Exactly. And
um,
you know you have
so
the recipe, exactly. So
exactly.
but yeah, it is crazy touching on your family, like enjoying it now. So I'm a beer drinker, but IPAs, they are something I stay away from. I'm not like a hoppy type
Right.
person. And I do notice our culture kind of stays away, like you said, there are things that we drink or things like that. So you creating a new lane and creating a new commerce really and like a whole like everything is new, you know what I mean, and you're creating like a whole new yeah, like I said, a new commerce for the industry yourself, because you're creating something that comes with different flavors, is something that's different than what we've experienced before. Like I'm really excited to try it actually. I'm like, how do I order
Oh,
this?
yeah.
Because
Yeah, I
I
usually,
really, yeah, I really want to try an IPA that I can really enjoy. We've only been subject to one
right.
thing.
And I feel like I always, this is like one of my phrases I go through. Nobody liked the IPA when they first had it.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, it's not a drink that you actually
Mhm.
is the first time you ever had it. You're like, oh, I like this.
Right.
It it is one of those things you're like, nah, I don't like this, and you have another one like, no. And then somehow your taste buds change or your sensory changes, and you're like, okay, yeah, that wasn't too bad. Or you have
Like a
another one, and you're
full-bodied
like, okay.
wine, yes.
Yeah, exactly. And then you get to a point where you're like, you know what, I want an IPA, and
Hmm.
then you get accustomed to that taste and the bitterness. And
Hmm.
the Googly Moogly is not that bitter. We kept it low, but it still has a bittering flavor profile that
So it
somebody
stays true to it. Yeah.
that would not be accustomed to. But you educate and you let them know, hey, there's other flavors that you're going to pull out from this beer. You're going to get some juicy tropical citrus flavors of pineapple, or you might get some orange and grapefruit or something like that.
Okay.
And then that trains the mind, and then the mind starts to taste those things, and then you're like, oh, okay, this is actually kind of good. And that's kind of how
I love that.
you
How you
start to
built
convert.
that flavor palette. I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah, you
exactly.
really thought of it. Yeah, no, you even said it. I was like, okay, I see how that will like go on this taste bud and here.
Yeah,
I love that. So no,
and it's like,
you have to think of it like that. I
you
love
do.
that.
Yeah, and but that's the beauty of beer. Like it's not just a beverage that's like I'm just gonna get drunk. It's like
Right.
no, there's like complexities to it that and one of the things like Gary Oliver, the guy that I got this scholarship from, he has written books about beer pairings with food and how beer is actually more pairable with food than wine,
Mm.
and we should actually be drinking more beer with our food pairings than wine because beer has such a complexity of flavors and aromas, and even like mouthfeel that helps us associate it with food better than wine, actually.
Oh,
And
really?
so, yeah, it's insane the level of complexity and education you get into when you start talking about beer. So,
That's awesome. So I'm
yeah,
more of a wine drinker.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
If I could have chosen anything, I would have been a somm or something. I
That's
absolutely love wine.
yeah.
So with that knowledge, is it kind of similar with beer as far as what classifies it? So I know we're speaking about IPAs and how you had a stout, and you're in Germany, so it's like you're like German beers. So like, what are the categories and how do you stay true to that, even though you're bringing it, with your own flavors to America, to the South, like, so
Yeah.
different.
I mean, I'm a traditionalist in some ways with beer. So, like, there are certain styles that I want to stay traditional with. And beer is a worldwide cultural, social drink. And
Right.
so every place around the world has their own styles. Even Africa has their own styles of beer because it's based off the raw ingredients in that area.
Okay.
And so throughout history, you've had these societies and civilizations create beer in their own way and from their raw materials, all the way to ancient times. You're talking about, beer was probably one of the first beverages ever made, because it was safe to drink. Back then, water could kill you. And
Right.
so
True.
the way people survived and lived was through beer. And they didn't know what they were making at the time, or they didn't know exactly how it was all made, but they found a way to continue to make this beverage that would get them slightly drunk, but also sustain them with nourishment from food because it was a food source. And so you have this long history in each society that comes up had beer in their society.
Right.
And so then, based off where they are, they use the natural ingredients of the land, and then they create their styles based off the water that was available to them at that time.
Oh, true.
And so then, now I have the pleasure to learn all the different styles from everywhere because we have the internet and we have people that's
Right.
gone
The
around
world
the world and
is a lot smaller now, right?
yeah. And so we're able to say, hey, like, how did they make beer in Africa? And now we have resources and understanding of like the raw ingredients in Africa, and we can make a beer like that. Or how did they make beer in Scotland or England or something like that? Well, now we have the resources and the availability to even try those beers. And so I take all of that and I learn and I try those type of beers and I try to recreate them in some way. And then once I can get down the basics, then I can have fun and make up
Right.
something
Yeah.
else, you know,
Yeah.
crazy
Or
with it.
once it's safe and it tastes like a beer,
It's like
makes that
music,
flavor.
you know, you have to learn your notes first
Yeah.
and learn the scales and, you know, learn the chords. And then once you learn that, you can play jazz
Those
and you
and the
can
sweet melodies on it. I love it. Yes. I love that. Drinking it will be like sweet melodies. Yeah, I have to get this beer. You're already speaking to me. I'm a music person, so
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's actually a good idea.
no, that
But
sounds
yeah, I mean,
amazing.
I love wine too. Wine is amazing.
Mhm.
And but again, like if you're into wine, you understand this, you know, the terroir and like where it comes from
Right,
is
exactly.
gonna affect how it tastes. And so it's the same with a beer, where it comes
So is it
from, and
fine as long as you have those original ingredients? So if you're shipping it in, it can be classified as, say, a German
yeah.
stout or
So like
things like
within the categories, sorry, yeah, I'm going back to what you were originally asking. Within the categories of beer, you have ale and lager,
right.
two main styles of fermentation. And from those two main styles of fermentation, you have all the different categories of beer underneath. And those are based off of where they originated.
I see.
And then you can create beer from those categories. So, for example, IPA is a big, you know, beer style now, especially because of Americans, but it's not an American beer, it's an English beer. We just,
You know that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I
I,
thought it was made here, seriously.
no, original like IBA was
Yeah.
made in England, and so we, of course, Americans, we
We
adapt and
just
we
take stuff.
recreate. Yeah, we take it. Um, and in some ways, we make things better, and
Yeah.
sometimes we don't. But yeah, so something like that, or like the Pilsner. That's the number one
Yeah.
um, beverage consumed in the world is a Pilsner. That comes from the Czech Republic, but Budweiser, Bud Light, Coors, Miller, High
Right.
Life,
Yeah.
and all of those are lagers and or pilsners. And we just take it from another country through immigration a lot of times. And it
Okay.
wasn't even we take it, like a lot of it comes from immigration. Like these immigrants would come to America for a better life, but they would bring their culture and their history of making beer to America. And that's why we have all these
And those
companies.
companies started, yeah.
Yeah, and that's why we have this
So
really big.
still somewhat traditional.
Yeah, yeah, somewhat. Yeah, 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 for sure. I like as much as I hate on the macros like Budweiser and stuff like that.
Mhm.
There's a lot of history
Yeah.
behind them, and one of the reasons why we have a big beer culture in America is because of those companies. So
Right.
I give a
And like you're saying, the culture of beer and maybe the decline that the industry's seeing, do you think that has? So I'm actually in the cannabis industry. Do you feel like that's where that came from? Because as we were seeing the changes, I know that a lot of just the like shipments, manufacturing, things like that, those laws for liquor licenses, things like that were changing because cannabis was coming in. Do you feel like that has a lot to do with it? Because craft brewing kind of thing and kind of bud tending and things like that are kind of in the same wheelhouse.
Yeah, I think we're seeing a shift on how people want to indulge in life, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think it's really, I think the shift is coming from more greed than anything, not necessarily cannabis taking over. I think people, first off, we live in a culture now where it's like we can only maintain 5 minutes of attention on one thing, right?
Yep.
And so we're rapidly changing our attention to different things, and so we're needing more and more different things thrown at us because we're like, oh, I want to try this today, I want to try that tomorrow, I want
There's
to
a
try
buffet for everything. Yeah. Right.
everything. And so the big companies realize this, and then they just come out with product after product after product, because whatever's hot, whatever's new, that's what they want.
Yeah.
That's what people are going to gravitate towards. Get the quick buck. That I think that leads to a lot of consumer confusion and also drives down sales from the craft beer's perspective because we, as craft brewers, are trying to educate and get people into craft beer.
Yeah.
But how do I get somebody in craft beer when Welch's has a 12% vodka with some grape juice right next to me? My,
Sweet, loaded with sugar.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, well, all right, how do you compete? And then you lose a craft beer drinker or a beer drinker to something that, some Sunny
Little
D.
mix, a little. Yeah. No, everyone has a mix. There was a spiked, what, the lemonades now.
Yeah, it's every,
There is a spiked Sunny D. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, you're
everywhere.
right.
And so that's kind of leading to some confusion within the industry. Is it is it alcohol? Is it beer? Is it like,
And they say malt on it, right? So is
yeah,
that
some of them do will say,
okay?
yeah, just
Yeah.
straight off. And then but then as a whole, like we're seeing a shift in the industry where people are just consuming less right now. And who knows, maybe this next election people start consuming more just because they're just
I'm
over it. But
stressed out.
you know, in politics, you'll see these changes
Right.
in our history where a lot of consumption is because of something
Yeah.
happening, and then kind of declines because everybody's kind of happier or stuff like that, healthier, they're more health conscious, and then something happens and it kind of goes back up. So I'm
The
not really
greatest
tripping
boom
about
for alcohol sales was
it.
prohibition. So,
Exactly. We
you
don't
know.
need life anyway.
But do you see like politics playing a role? You've kind of been in the industry now for some time. During, what's been going on, have you seen like shifts because of that, laws changing where you are
All the time.
with liquor licenses?
All the time. We are the craft beer industry, especially, are the little men. We're the
Yeah,
little people, and so we're always fighting against the bigs. The big major brands
right.
of beer. They have huge lobbyists and huge like pockets of money that they go to Washington D.C. and or their local governments, and they create these laws or these stipulations that make it a little bit harder
Make
for
it harder.
us,
Yeah.
yeah, to get into the industry or get sales and stuff like that. We're crafty people, right? We'll figure it out. And then you have the black aspect. I'm from Atlanta. I'm
You
a
hustle.
hustler, so I'm gonna figure it
Yeah.
out.
You're like, oh, my beer's getting out
Yeah,
there.
but there are definitely laws that make it harder, especially for Georgia, that just make it harder
Yeah.
for somebody getting into the industry to actually get their beer out there. You kind of have to navigate differently, and so yeah, it's politics everywhere.
Well,
And
that's what I experienced. We have we're a licensed cannabis company in Los Angeles, and you would think it's in LA. Everyone's like, "Oh, it's made there." I'm like, "Yeah, but there are so many major companies, and they're actually acquiring all of the smaller businesses anyway." So
mhm.
there's, just like the food industry, just like, you said the beer industry, things like that. So it really is hard to have that entrepreneurial spirit and keep up with it with a mom and pop shop when they don't want you. Like they do not want you there.
Oh yeah, no, they're not at all, and they're quick to acquire and then let them die. So,
Yeah. But so
um,
with that though, how do you like push yourself to open the pub? Because that is very different, especially pub
yeah.
style, European things like that. Like, how do you like how did that even come off the ground, and like what motivates you
A
to
lot
doing
a lot of work and a lot of like nervousness, but
it?
really it's just a dream that I'm like just staying with,
I love
and
it.
um, I have a vision and I have a goal in mind, and so with that, I'm gonna continue working in any way to try to get to that point. And it's been a long time. I'm closer, but I'm nowhere near, and to the vision I have in my mind. But as like you said earlier, like, things start aligning when you're walking in your path. That's what I'm seeing. And then so the doors start to open a little bit more. I get the education. I start meeting the right people, like
When
Stan,
you're
for example,
least expecting
when
it,
you
yeah.
least expect it. And so that keeps me going, that keeps me focused, that keeps me motivated to know that, okay, even if the end is not exactly looking like how I thought it would be, I'm actually still getting somewhere that I would have never imagined if I didn't have that dream or
Exactly.
that.
So, right, yeah. No, I
That's
love that you say that.
yeah, that's how I have to look at it. And so whatever, when the doors open, it'll look like what it's meant to look like at that time. But it's all based off of the dream that I had from the beginning of this. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sticking with it. No, that's really important, especially for a lot of our followers that are on here, a lot of creatives, entrepreneurs, things like that. Your dream is your dream, and you're going to have to believe in it like it's a fairy tale. You know what I mean? Like it,
It is, yeah.
I'm sure, like you said, you were telling your parents, like, what do you mean you're gonna go make beer and you just got the out of the military and all these things? But it's like you have to believe it, like yeah, like it's real. Like, yeah, I can meet.
Exactly.
You met someone that like they literally mentored you and they had no idea,
Right.
and like
Oh,
you
yeah,
met them
exactly.
that day, and it's like that just goes to show just keep walking through the door because your name is being spoken in rooms that you haven't even thought of.
Exactly.
So yeah,
And like, yeah, like you said, you have to believe first. And it's not just believing, but actually have some kind of concrete understanding of what you want to do. Um, you could say, yeah, I want to fly to the moon. But like, at
put it
some point, you got to sit down and be
together.
like,
How
how
do I
does
do
that
that?
look? Yeah, how do I actually fly to the moon? You know what I mean? Like, what do I need to know to
Mm,
actually get there? And then you actually put in the work and you put in the time to understand and get better at it, because we look at the greats of any industry, and we think, oh, it looks like it's so easy and they're there. And it's like, no, they had this dream at one point in time and then they had to go figure it out and learn and practice or
every day. Yeah.
every day. And so, somebody might be looking at me and be like, oh, well, he got this scholarship and now he's in Germany and that's the reason why. It's like, well, no, I had to apply. I got denied the first time and I could have gave up there, but I actually was like, no, I really want to do this. And so I tried again and applied again and went through the process again and had to do the interviews all over again and had to say the same things to
Wow.
the same people over
Yeah,
again.
yeah.
Um, and I got accepted and now I'm here. And so, but people will
When
probably
it's
look at
your
it like,
time, it is your
it's your
time.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
like you may not have even applied the first time or anything like that, but it was like it took that like, you know what, now I'm gonna do this again, and like
Yeah,
that's all that it took. Oh, it was just one more time. That was it. Okay.
yeah,
Like
exactly.
that's
Exactly. It
crazy.
was just one more time. And like, all right, now I can do this. And now I'm here and I'm experiencing this crazy, I don't know what it's a fever dream to me
Hmm.
sometimes. I'm like, well, how in the world am I like in Munich walking around and going to study beer? And it's crazy.
Like I'm just drinking beer every day.
For real. Like, we'll start class and we'll have like a beer tasting at like 7:30 in the morning. I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
God. Like, all right.
This is
But
my
like,
life. Yeah. No, that is beautiful.
yeah, it is.
Ah, So now that
I
you're in Germany on another mission now. So that's kind of the theme actually of this season, fulfilling the mission. One of the reasons that we asked you, because like yeah, from just the beginning of when we were following you and like seeing where you are, and you were in Germany before, like you said, for the military, and now you're there in
I
this
know
life, and you said, so like, what is that like? Yeah, you're seeing Germany in a whole new light.
a whole new
So how is
place.
that like?
I love it. It's so interesting because I was first here, I was younger, so I was like party, party, party,
Right,
like
yeah.
let's all get wasted. And now I'm a little bit older and I'm here again, not realizing like, oh man, I missed out so much by not traveling. But coming back and being full circle, it's been crazy because I can appreciate it in a different way. And um, I love Europe. It's an amazing place. And I want to try to tell everybody, like, if you can, travel as much as you can because you'll learn more about yourself and you'll learn more about the world. And being back here a second time now for beer
Right.
is, which was the reason
Yeah, you were
why
you
I
first
got into
fell in
beer.
love with it. That's why
Yeah,
it's, oh my gosh.
it's a crazy
Isn't
stuff.
God good?
It's, yeah, it's so crazy. And so um, being able to travel around Europe and like have beer in the places where it originated and where it was made, and like having beer in a monastery where the beer is made by monks,
Wow.
and these are
Wow.
like some of the most coveted places in the world for beer geeks and beer nerds
Hmm.
that like um, to go there and talk to the brewmaster and have that beer. It's like
And you're supposed to be
I know,
there. Ooh.
yeah, exactly. It's crazy.
Mm.
It's insane to think about it that way. But I embrace it. I know I'm here for a
Mhm.
reason. I know this is where I'm supposed to be, like you said, and we're gonna keep it moving and keep it pushing.
Yeah.
And I must bring it all back to America and hopefully be able to create and educate and have my style and my stamp on it. So
Right. And yeah, and really be, have your name like with your beer everywhere. Like that's going to be the big two. So,
yeah,
like I said,
domination. That's the key,
yeah,
right?
you walk through that door for a
Dominate.
reason, and yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it's not
That's my
going to
goal.
stop.
No, yeah. That my goal is to dominate, and like is dominating doesn't mean I gotta push somebody out the way. It's
Right.
just no, I'm gonna stay in my own lane and
Mhm.
do it the way I feel is good for me. And I think that's the biggest thing. Like once you start doing something that's good for you, everybody else gets on board and they kind of understand it, and you'll see like how it changes everybody around you.
Right. Because you're limiting your truth. Isn't that like a crazy thing? Like they know you for that now. They know like people kind of approach you differently. Like you're
For real.
like, yeah,
Yeah,
oh, this is my lifestyle. Okay, yeah, I get it. All right, this is who I
exactly.
am.
That's it. The crazy thing because you're like, it's like the one of the things like, oh, you make beer, and I'm like, yeah, and they're like, that's weird, but I'm kind of interested now. Like, well, how do you do this? And so you get to tell them, and then you get to engage with people, and then they start liking it, and that's the whole goal. Because if I can introduce one more person, that's one more drinker, that's one more um, person that's buying beer or buying wine or whatever the case may be. So
Yeah,
yeah, I enjoy that part
that is
tremendously.
amazing. Yeah, having someone enjoy something that you crafted, that's
Oh my God, that's so
huge.
crazy. I'm always nervous
That's how,
every
yeah.
time I try my beer. Like it
Right?
feels
Oh, are you still? And you're
always,
in
yeah. Every
stores,
time
you
I'm
know
like,
that you made
tell
it.
me
That's amazing, though. That's
yeah,
great.
it's like every time I'm like, what do you think? Like, oh, is it good? Do you like it?
That's your
And like
baby, yeah.
it is, yeah. It's like having somebody taste your dish or something like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
And so
You want to
like,
know everything. Did you taste that flavor? Did you get that on the,
mhm.
no, that's amazing. And that's how you stay true to it and continue to make something that is, handcrafted and that's flavorful and not just, I won't say, like I said, there's a lot of major companies. I love something that they make or whatever. So I won't say that, things get watered down, but you do lose that sense of artisan flavor, I guess, that I enjoy
Right,
anyway. Like I do, I'd rather go to an authentic place to go have their food wherever they made it, things like that. So I love that, you still took the plunge and, even though it's maybe not something that was a place that looked like you should be there, or, you knew anybody who was doing it or anything like that, but you made sure that you followed that calling from falling in love all those years ago in Germany.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's the key. And like even for Black people, I think we get stuck into, or even society places us in like this pigeonhole of like, oh, this is what y'all like, and this is the only thing y'all like, and it's like, nah, that's not true. We like everything,
We
and
like
we are
everything.
everything.
It's what was removed from us, taken away from, like,
Right? Yeah,
it's
exactly.
like we had our own everything. So yeah, I always think
Exactly.
that's weird too.
So then it's just bringing it back and like getting back to that consumership of the local artisan like style, because for the longest, yeah, we just got forced with, I mean, from like a beer perspective, we were just forced with like the big brands, and
Malt
we didn't
liquor, 40
have
ounces
beer
in
for
at the liquor
sure.
store. There's a liquor store in every corner that you lived on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like, and then you have people elsewhere just drinking these beautiful beers and like living this lovely life of just like,
For
oh,
$2. Yeah.
yeah, for cheap. And then like I was like, that was another thing. Like when I got to Europe, beer is cheaper than
Mhm,
water here. And I'm like,
mhm.
how is beer
Yeah.
cheaper than
Yeah, when I
water?
said $2, I meant that, yeah, there's a few places I went. I was like, well, I guess I'll just drink this because
Yeah,
I do want to try
it's,
it. And
yeah, and it's cheaper. It's economical. Like
yeah.
I'm trying to save money. And so
So that's what's
it's
so
pretty.
interesting. Yeah. So you're bringing something to the community, not just ours, but I just think just the city of Augusta, and that's going to be completely different and really enlighten the community to, like,
Definitely. And that is like you need to get out in Atlanta and start distributing in Atlanta. And I'm like, okay, all right.
oh,
But
well,
it's,
you already know how that goes. Yeah.
yeah, and
I
that's the
saw that
next.
you went to that one festival out there, and like, how are you received when you're in Atlanta?
Oh
Because,
yeah.
they're their own community.
You know what? And the Atlanta beer scene is actually coming up. It's getting really solid,
Okay.
really strong, and then there's a lot of Black people starting to get into it. There we have a really strong community of Black people that are in the craft beer scene
Oh,
in
really?
Atlanta,
Okay.
and it's starting to make some waves, and
Oh,
it's exciting
I
to
love that.
see. It's exciting to see and be a part of because it's getting the recognition from bigger players in the industry.
Okay.
We're starting to create this, as everything in Atlanta, we create our own wave, and then people,
And then here it
they,
comes. Yeah.
like, yeah. And so to be a
Don't let them
part of
take
it,
it like the relaxer.
I know, yeah, yeah. To be a part of it is, I sometimes pinch myself too because it's like, oh wow, I'm a part of this
Yeah.
industry with these people. Like Nappy Roots, they own a brewery in Atlanta.
Oh, do they?
Um,
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
two of the
Okay.
members from Nappy Roots, they have a brewery called Atlantucky. Yeah, Atlantucky.
Okay. Let me
So
write that down because
it's
I
like
have
Atlanta,
to.
Kentucky
Yeah.
together. And they're always there, like so, and they're creating their own stuff and meshing the music with the beer, and
Oh, that's
they're
beautiful.
they're
Yeah, because
learning they're learning.
I was only seeing like artists and stuff in the major liquor
Mhm.
realms, you know what I'm saying, and the cannabis stuff. So I'm happy to hear
Yeah,
that we're
it's
actually expanding. Yeah.
I cannot wait, and that's kind of one of my biggest like goals is to like really get that artist beer connection, because so much we're focused on the liquor side, and it's like of course we live in a glamorous life and we want pop bottles and all this stuff like that, but at the end of the day people are drinking beer every day.
And
They're not drinking a
when are
bottle.
the barbecues coming back? Yeah.
Right,
We're in the
exactly.
on
So it's
season of
like
them now. Yeah. So let's get
exactly
those
so it's
barbecues
like,
going.
like once we realize that, and I will put this out in the universe, but honestly, like I have to figure out how to do it myself too, because I know that's the next thing. Once some, I don't know, big company realizes, oh, we need to like tap into the celebrities of Black culture and like, mix it with beer, and then
Right.
they're gonna be like, oh,
Right.
like that's how we get them, kind of thing. It's like, all right, but I can do it. I still will, if I can figure out a way to mesh that, because I mean, we have this a big entire community of people that are not drinking beer
Yeah.
yet, and or they are, but they don't drink it like white people do, our white counterparts. So, and it's because we have this.
that stigma on it. Yeah,
stigma,
it's not our.
and then this connection to like, oh, that's not fancy or that's
Mhm.
not
Because we
cool.
were given the 40 ounces in the brown paper bags, and that's our only association, really.
Right.
Tall
Yeah.
boys,
Yeah.
things like
Exactly.
that. So you're bringing the class, and that's what I love about your brand.
Yeah.
Now you're bringing the class, and you have a pub to go to. It's a whole experience.
Yeah.
Your even your are they kegs that you have for the tap? They're
Hmm.
beautiful. I was looking at your design, like, yeah. So you're
Yeah.
bringing that culture back to what we love and what we do.
And
So I know it's gonna be big. Yeah.
thank you. I
Great.
appreciate that. Yeah, and it's the highest quality I can possibly make, and have a joy and a love for it, and put my own twist in it. And so that will speak for itself at the end of the day. But I can't wait to see like what Atlanta does and what Black people do in the industry, because it's gonna be a day where it's gonna be, it looks like us kind of thing,
Yeah, and
and
that's
we're
what we're
here.
ordering at restaurants, and that's what we're enjoying, yeah, at home
Hmm.
every night.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I mean, women are the fastest sector of beer drinkers
Yeah,
in the United States,
yeah.
the growing
I
sector.
love it. Yeah, I love it with my food. So that's why you were saying with the pairing, I'm like, oh, okay, I need to like look into that more then and see some
Hmm.
other alternatives to wine because, the tannins in wine and some of the things that give me headaches and stuff, beer doesn't. So I would like to know, especially with my
Exactly.
food, the stuff I like to eat because
Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
I don't want it just with a cheeseburger or spaghetti. Like,
Right.
okay, if I was eating, Thanksgiving dinner, how we eat it, what
Exactly.
beer would
What?
go with that?
And that's the crazy thing about it. There's so many, and I usually said that like Thanksgiving Day, I can name out 5 different beer pairings that with each like part of our meal that I could probably
See,
make a beer that would
that's what I need.
go along. You know what I mean?
Well, I'll
So,
be
you
waiting
know.
for that ebook then
All right. Yeah.
of the Tapped33 food pairing.
Yeah. No. Right. Yeah. For sure.
Because
For
Atlanta
soul
would probably eat
food.
that
So
up. Yeah,
I
yeah.
know soul food beer pairings for
Yeah.
sure. But
So,
yo,
just tag me when you make it.
I know. Yeah. Now I got more work to do, I guess.
But with that, what is next? With you fulfilling your mission for Tapped33, what would you like to impart on everybody? How can we reach you? And yeah, what's next?
Yeah. All right. Well, what's next? I will be finishing here in Germany and getting my master's certification through the World Brewing Academy, and I'll be a master brewer.
Yes.
And I will come back to the States and continue with Good Google Mookly, trying to get that in as many places and in many hands and mouths as possible. And then I'll be releasing 95 D'Angelo Brown Sugar Brown Ale. Uh, the GABF this year, which is the Great American Beer Festival in Denver. I signed up for that, so I will have a booth in Denver,
Awesome.
and Good Google Movie will be in the judges' hands to see if we can get feedback and medals and just have more people taste
Yes.
it, kind of thing. So,
Let us know. Yeah,
yeah,
for sure. I definitely want to
I'll
post that. And I'm
definitely.
not far from Denver.
Yeah.
I'd love
Oh,
to see
nice.
you.
Yeah. Yeah. And so yeah, that's coming up in October.
Ooh, Oktoberfest.
Yeah, I
Okay.
know. And then yeah, I will be continuing on my journey in trying to open up Tap 33 as a brick and mortar in Augusta, and then we'll see what happens from there.
Thank you so very much. Again,
No, thank
everybody, I really appreciate it. I just want to thank Robert for joining us tonight. This was season 3, episode 1. You can reach him at Tapped33 on Instagram and find all of his links in his bio. Be on the lookout. We will be continuing to post all of his things. So when he does get back to the States, you guys can see where he will be and taste this delicious beer. They are in stores, and you guys will see the link. It's actually on our page as well. And Robert, again, just thank you so much for your time, everything that you were doing. You
no,
are just really fulfilling the mission, and thank you for following your path. I truly appreciate you.
no,
It
thank
was an
you.
honor. No
Thank
problem.
you.
Thank
Same here.
you.
All right.
Thank you guys so much for joining us for another episode. Again, I'm your host and creator, Brittany. You guys have a wonderful night. Thank you.
All right. Good night.